So welcome to today's show. Jerry and I are joined today by BBC presenter and the one and only Stephen Winker Watson. How are you, Stephen?
Good to see you. Good to see you both. I've been enjoying Jerry's stories on social media very much, rewinding the years back.
First class. And we're joined by friend of the stars, celebrity cameraman himself, Albert Kirk. How are you, Albert?
I'm wonderful. Life's great. I'm enjoying this lockdown. Nice wee salads, couple of wee bit of painting, and they ought to be drinking on again.
Absolutely brilliant. Jay, would you like to say something about these two lads?
We've got a couple of hours. Brilliant. Obviously, we met the two boys through football, but most of the time it was usually through drinking back a few years ago. Albert has a great story that every time I met him, I was usually with a lady friend, and I knew that she was in for a bit of stick, so I used to say, "That's my sister." Every time, and at one stage, he must have said to Norman Kelly or something, "He flanners about 7 sisters." He says, "Well, he's the only child. Are you stupid?" Brilliant.
And then he started to call them cousins when they would run out of sisters.
You big family.
That's it.
So, Stephen, over to you. Tell us a wee bit about yourself and your background, please.
Oh, listen, I obviously I'm a sports presenter in BBC now, but I met Albert back in the day in UTV. I came straight out of university into UTV in 1993. When I came across Albert Kirk all those years ago, and another good friend of mine, cameraman in UTV, John Vennard, and I had like 7 happy years in UTV, and eventually BBC came along and asked me to join the Beeb in 1999. Joined there in 99 and have never looked back. But like back in the day, I never really wanted to be like on television. I love sport. I absolutely love sport, but I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I really just wanted to work behind the scenes. But an opportunity came along. I took it. I enjoyed it. And I suppose the rest is history. I did at one point. I got offered a job to go and work in the Belfast Telegraph in the news department. It was like a postgraduate trainee scheme, but I turned it down and opted for a short-term contract in sport in UTV, simply because I love sport. It was in our family. I always loved sport growing up, and it was a dream job, and as it turned out, I've been in it ever since.
I take it you studied journalism, did you?
No, I studied history and politics.
What every sports journalist needs.
Yeah, and to be honest, I never really used the history or politics part of it at all. But it was all the stuff I was doing outside of university. I did hospital radio, presented on BCR, City Beat as it is now, or 96.7, whatever it's called. And it was a great training ground. The only time my politics degree has ever been useful is when BBC asked me to present the news, actually part of Newsline for a couple of years, which I enjoyed. But I got a lot of stick from the rest of my colleagues in the newsroom going like, "Why is a guy from sport coming down to present the news?" And I said, "Excuse me, I have a politics degree at Queen's University." So that's the only thing it's been useful for whatsoever.
Brilliant. I'll have to say it's a bit weird asking you questions considering you're the one who usually does that.
Well, that's true. But since you're the new Jackie Fullerton, I'm happy to answer.
You know what Mr. Flynn's doing? That's nothing to do with me. Albert, similar to yourself, you're usually behind the camera. Now you're in front. Tell us a bit about you.
Oh, well, I tell people that I worked for UTV for 29 years and 8 months, and basically just started in UTV as a spark, did the lighting, then moved the sound, then moved the cameras, and then when Stephen came in, I'll tell you a story about him. One thing that impressed me about him, really did impress me, like when he came in.
You're going to be nice here. You're going to be nice.
I'm going to be nice. He was a wee boy around about. So we always went and filmed the football matches. So there was all these tapes of all the matches, all filmed, and it was just basically put down was just goal at such and such, goal at such and such, right? So when you were looking through, we didn't know what was on the tape. But when he came in, he was looking through the tapes and we had to go and look for a goal. And then he looked through so many tapes and he just got fed up. And he sat and he took all the tapes and he logged all the tapes. He just sat and logged them and put all the information of like where the incidents happen and all the goals. And that like he is a perfectionist. He does your head in at times. Like
OCD.
that's why he got where he is now, because he is so good. And I just thought I'd say that at the start before I bury him later on.
That actually was my first job in UTV, was to pretty much log all the Irish League football tapes. I loved Irish League football, and I just kept a record of everything that happened in every single game. But what Albert should have said was, yes, he started as a spark, he moved into sound, and he moved into cameras. Then he moved into show business, where he is now.
Don't be stealing his thunder. So, Albert, tell us some of the things that you've actually been filming down the years.
Oh, right.
The things for television, not the
Well, the way I said, it was 2 World Cups, Cricket World Cup, 2 Ryder Cups, the 2 Opens, the Gulf War, and 30 years of the Troubles. So that's basically it. That's it in a nutshell. But I mean, I joined UTV in '83, and then I was at that memorable match at Wembley, right? When, God rest him, Alan McDonald came out and did that interview.
Yeah.
And I was in the tunnel at Wembley at the light when Alan McDonald did that, and that was just quality. Anybody think you'll come to me?
Come and see me.
See me. That was what. And so then I got lucky enough. I went off to the World Cup in '86, and the amazing thing about that was, right, so the team flew out early to Albuquerque, right? So my name's Albert Kirk. I flew to Albuquerque on my 31st birthday, and I had a 31-hour birthday with the time difference on my 31st birthday, flying to Albuquerque. That is just unreal.
And
so then I got to know the boys.
Gin.
Well, no, the thing about them was I wasn't on a gin then, I was on a Bacardi then. And we were very lucky because ITV paid for most of it, and the flew us out business class. And because it was my birthday, so I'm getting champagne and all and everything. The girl, the waitresses giving me her hostess champagne and everything. But we drank the plane out of Bacardi, right? It was me, Jackie Fullerton, Elton Wellesby, Blaine Scott, Peter Gregory, Alan Hales, Felicity Clemens, and Terry Smith was there, right? You know. And so we drank the plane out of Bacardi. And because they were serving you drink, they had to actually go and open the duty free to give us more Bacardi because they'd run out of the wee miniatures. But that was a 31-hour birthday on my 31st birthday flying to Albuquerque. Great.
Magic.
Fantastic. Only 4 years ago.
Only 4 years. Hey, you can do the sums.
Well, it seems, give some of your highlights of your career.
Listen, where do you start? I mean, I've been fortunate enough, and I mean, a lot of the things have coincided with Albert as well. Him and I have covered a lot of things together at UTV and then even in BBC. I've been fortunate enough to be at many of the world's greatest sporting events. I've covered the Olympics in London and Brazil. I've been to the Commonwealth Games. I've been to the Football World Cup, the Rugby World Cup, European Championships. I've covered probably 40 plus golf majors, half a dozen Ryder Cups. The Masters every year is one of the big highlights of the year. Obviously, I was gutted it was called off in April. I know it's been moved to November. Whether we're able to go or not with the travel this year, I'm not sure. It'll be Sod's Law. The Masters, we won't be able to go to the Masters, and Rory McIlroy will probably win it. We have been the Scud all this time. But look, I enjoy any sporting event I go to, whether it's one of the biggest ones or one of the smaller ones here at home. I still cover everything with as much enthusiasm and as much passion as the next thing. Look, I get as excited going to the Cookstown 100 motorcycling as I do going to watch Jonathan Ray in the World Superbike Championship. The job has provided us with unbelievable opportunities, not only to see the world, have privileged position within that sporting event, the best seats in the house, access to some of our greatest sports stars, but it's the friends that you meet along the way. It's the fun that you have along the way, and the crack and the banter, which makes it. Albert will tell you the same. But some of the highlights of sport with golf in the past number of years have been unbelievable. To be right at the heart of Rory McIlroy's first major win, Graham McDowell's first major win, Darren Clark winning the Open Championship. You know, Shane Lowry at the Open last year. The Open coming to Portrush was one of the highlights of my career, without a doubt. I was so proud to see the Open coming to Northern Ireland. So all of those type of events are just they're a privilege to be at them, and I would like to think that we're able to bring, you know, the Northern Ireland aspect of that event back for everyone to watch in Northern Ireland. But they've provided great memories, and especially the golf. I mean, Albert's been involved in a lot of the golf the last few years too, and I mean, being able to fly home with Rory McIlroy, Graham McDowell, and Darren Clark in their private jets back home to Northern Ireland, bringing the major trophies back. I mean, sometimes I just pinch myself when you think of what we did. I mean, when Rory McIlroy landed at the airport, and we were making a documentary with him, and the guy at the airport dropped the steps down at the airport, and the first person he saw was myself and Gary McCutcheon, the cameraman. He went, "What? Geez, what are you boys doing on there?" And then kind of Rory got off the plane. But fast forward like 3 or 4 weeks later, when Darren Clark's plane lands in Belfast and he drops the steps down again, and we're the two buckets getting off the plane. He says, "Oh, not you boys again." So some of those things have been incredible. And to be honest, you know, we've had the chance to work alongside so many of our great sporting stars, you know, like Rory McIlroy, Darren Clark, Graham McDowell, George Best. I mean, George Best was a studio guest with us, you know, for international football at BBC. I honestly nearly wet myself when I heard George Best I was going to be working with George Best, my absolute hero growing up. And to work alongside him was unreal. And even some of the stars we have today, like Jonathan Ray, Carl Frampton, Wayne McCulloch, who's a good friend of Albert and mine. We've been to visit him in Vegas many times. And just to get to meet those people, you know, build up good friendships with those people is probably the best part of the job for me.
Tell you a story about Wayne McCulloch in Vegas and him, right? Class. So Bernard was with, John Bernard was with as well, you know John, Jerry. So we're in Wayne's house, and Wayne had the ring in, right? So we said, once people get in the ring, so Stephen gets in the ring, puts his gloves on, right? I'm not kidding you, like, this is like, he's probably about 5 stone soaking wet, so he has like more fat in the dry
with
chip.
a kidney transplant.
With a kidney transplant before he had, with the kidney transplant, with your first kidney transplant. Sorry, with your first kidney transplant.
Yeah.
So he's got the gloves up, and Wayne's just standing like that, just doing that, you know, hands behind the back, and he's going like that, and he's trying to hit him. I'm not kidding you, it must have been 20 seconds, and he goes over the ring. Only the way the gloves like we're killing them.
I got 1 minute into the round, and I said, I can't do it, I'm exhausted. And Wayne said, "Well done, you've done 1/3 of a round. You know, I do like 12 rounds. You have done 1/3 of a round. You're exhausted." To be honest though, it actually gave me a great insight into how fit those guys. I wasn't fit at all, but to understand what those guys go through, I was doing that, and nobody had actually been hitting me back. That was just me trying to hit him. It was incredible. But we've made many trips to Vegas because for the boxing. We've been to Vegas for boxing many times, obviously to see Wayne fight. And we've got good friends who live in Tucson in Arizona. So it's only about a 45-minute flight from there. So we've called in to see them too. But some of the fun, I mean, I could tell you a story if I'm allowed about Albert in Las Vegas. And you say he's not in the show business.
You're definitely allowed.
Okay, great. Well, Albert was doing his magic tricks as he does in Las Vegas one night. I can't remember if Norman Kelly was there. He might have been, I'm not sure. But I know Luther Vandross was standing at the bar. So Albert was up trying to have a drink with Luther Vandross at the bar for a start. But we ended up doing some magic trick. He ended up doing magic tricks for this guy at the bar, who turned out was quite an influential casino manager. He loved the crack, loved the Irish boys, and said, "Look, there's a big party on tonight up on the 61st floor of the Ghost Bar in the Rio, not the Rio Hotel, the Palms Hotel. So we got VIP treatment up onto the 61st floor. It turns out it was the after party to the MTV Music Awards. So like the great and the good of the world of show business are there, and us 3 or 4 buck agents in the middle of this place. So anyway, we're only in free drink, the whole thing. We're only in 5 minutes. I look round. Albert is making a beeline across the bar to try and speak to Ron Jeremy. So I'm trying to hold him back as he's trying to speak to him. He then tries to get onto the dance floor to dance with Paris Hilton. Doesn't make it. I think we're going to get thrown out. And 10 minutes later, we're out in the balcony, and I see Albert talking to a group of these black guys with big, furry hoods up, and I'm going, please, what is he doing now? He's doing magic tricks for this group. Turns out, does the magic tricks. They're laughing, loving the crack. And I started chatting with him as well. I said, "What do you boys do?" He said, "Oh no, we're Rum DMC." So Albert's night with Luther Vandross. There was somebody else as well, Nicole
Ritchie, and Anna
Nicole Smith. Yeah, I'm Nicole Smith. Paris Hilton, Ron Jeremy, and finally Rum DMC. Albert Kirk.
As I said, friend of the stars.
Told you.
Friend of the stars.
Told you.
Fantastic.
Lads, it sounds like an awful hard life, Jerry. I think we're in the wrong game.
You two haven't done too bad yourselves. You two haven't done too bad.
Albert, I have to
Collie.
ask you about your film, Shooting for Socrates. Tell me about that.
Oh, unbelievable! Because of Mexico '86, and but the funny thing was that Davy Campbell, who knew me from Davy did the production, was in the production of it all, So Davy phoned me and asked me had any sort of a bit of help for getting what he wanted to do was to get the players to play the actors to play football, right? But so as they could see it, so he wanted me to film it. So I says, yes, that's brilliant. I says, by the way, I have some photographs, old photographs. So I had the old photographs showing him on the pitch and the Brazil match and that sort of stuff at his Jalisco Stadium. And the weird thing was that Mary Jones, who was writing it, was having a meeting, right? So Mary Jones is sitting there. She was a scriptwriter, so we're all sitting there having a meeting. And I said, and Mary Jones says, "Well, what were you doing?" I says, "Well, sure, I was in Mexico in '86, Albuquerque. Jackie did that line, Albuquerque. Don't believe it." So then, this is not a word of a lie. She started to rewrite the script because basically it was Jackie was doing all his bits, right? And
basically, Albert told her what to put in it.
It was Conleth Hill. Conleth Hill was playing Jackie, right? And the amazing thing was, right, so she rewrote it so as Jackie had a cameraman. Now, I was a spark at the time, but she rewrote me as the cameraman, and put me into it. And because I broke my foot before the Algeria match, Terry Smith again was handing the car battery through the gate to me because we needed a 12-volt supply to power the infrared link. So handed this car battery through, the strap broke, landed in my foot. I went, a bit like Wink when he cut the top of his finger off. Oh my goodness, that hurt a bit. Or something like that. Right? So that's all well and good. So we end up, this Mexican doctor comes up and he's going, looking at my foot and he's going, you would know now, Jerry, what he said. How is it sore in Spanish, right?
No.
And I just went, it's like that, right? So he gave me this tablet. I went out, worked away, but in the meantime, right, I found that there was a 13-amp plug on the dugout on the way out where the teams come out. So Norman, I had met Norman earlier on the week. Norman was coming out, and I threw the extension lead down. Now they're coming out to play, and I threw the extension lead down into the dugout or into the tunnel where they're coming out. And I says, "Norman, will you plug that in for us?" And he's coming out to play the match. Like Norman.
I take it.
Clang, another name drop there. As
Jerry would say, you couldn't write it. You
couldn't make it up.
Point of information, it's actually in the book. Norman's book.
I want to know who played you in the screen. Who played you in the film?
Oh,
Jeremy.
Jerry, hold on. Jerry, somebody, I can't remember his name. But I tell you what, he'll be famous one day.
He must be awful good looking.
Albert, tell us about.
Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
No, Albert, tell us about the magic tricks in the World Cup when Keane left for Saipan. That's when you really became famous for the tricks, wasn't it?
Well, but the thing was that Stephen was inside Pan, right? UTV didn't pay for us to go the whole trip, so me and Logie ended up coming into Japan, and we met Wink and Gary after he'd left Saipan, and we'd come back. We were in Japan then, and we met him. What was the hotel with Chiba? Was it, Wink?
Chiba or Nagoya.
Chiba was the first. Nagoya was the first place, right? So we met up, and like, well, we're busy, so we were, right? It's unbelievable. The whole 5 weeks we were away. Like, Stephen had less time off because he was there you were there for 7 weeks, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Something, Stephen. Yeah, we had 5 weeks there, and I'm not kidding you. We had one half day off the whole time that we were in Japan and Korea.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
But we had a couple of wee drinks on the evening.
And see,
Well, it was unbelievable.
But you became famous, didn't you? They actually wasn't there 30 odd cruise film waiting on Keane whether he was going to come back or stay, and you started doing the tricks. They actually filmed you, and
that was
at a press conference. It was at a press conference.
That was a presser for the Germany match, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was the Germany match. That's what happened. Because the thing about it was that waiting on Mick McCarthy coming up to the press conference, so everybody, I'm up testing the mics and that sort of stuff. So then I started to do the magic tricks with the hanky and that sort of stuff, right? So I'm doing that and keeping the whole press entourage all happy, right? And that just sort of ended there, didn't it, Stephen? And then later on, he seen me. Where was it?
There was a camera crew came up and said, look, would we have any B-roll? Would we have any footage of this happening? We said, yeah, no problem, passed it on. So anyway, ended up in Canada watching television. They were doing a rerun of the World Cup, and they were having promos on for the World Cup. They were saying, oh, tonight we're going to relive this match. You know, can Ireland pull another rabbit out of the hat like this, magician cameraman? And Albert going coast to coast with the thing. And then in one of the matches, I think it was
Cameroon
the match against Cameroon. Well, just before the match, there was a shot. They put a shot of Schaefer, the manager, up on the big screen from behind, with the long blonde curly hair. But then this person turned around, and obviously it wasn't Schaefer, it was Albert. So they've obviously all been laughing so much, going, that's hilarious. So then they're going out on the world feed. They put a picture of Schaefer and Albert side by side, like on the big screen going out. So they must have been having some serious entertainment. It was funny. But I actually found out just this week, I found out that that's not the only time it's happened. And at the Cricket World Cup, I think in 2007, in 2007, he was on live Jamaican TV, doing magic tricks as well, and I only found that out this week. How I did not know this before, I'm not sure.
There's a restaurant down in La Manga, and I'm not joking. There's about 42 decks of cards all stuck to the ceiling. Every time he goes in, he does a magic trick where he throws the deck at the ceiling and the card sticks. If you go into it, everyone's always asking, how come there's so many playing cards over there? They're all his.
Jerry, there's one in Jerez in Spain. Jonathan Ray won his first World Superbike title, and Albert and I were there to film it for BBC. And that night, Jonathan, who's a good friend of ours, said, look, would we like to go out to the celebration meal just with his team? So the teams, there's about 30 or 40 people, on the motorcycle team. But the big head bosses were in from Japan as well. So at the end, and they're all a little more serious than us. So, but at the end of the night, Jonathan said, "Listen, would you do some magic tricks for the Japanese?" So he did that trick for the head of like Kawasaki Racing from Japan, and to this day they still talk about it. And the card still in the ceiling. Whenever Jonathan goes back to race in Jerez, he always goes to that restaurant and says, "Here, look what I've just seen." Still on the roof. Still on the roof.
We should be honoured all those years ago when you were doing them impressions. Do you remember that?
Oh,
what?
I would forget. Yeah.
You remember Precious?
Precious! Oh yes, I remember that. Oh, that was. They were good days.
Moving on.
We only got about 6 or 7 weeks out of it.
What did you say, Jerry?
We only got about 6 or 7 weeks out of it, and then our local politicians decided to close it down because people were having too much fun.
That's right.
What a place.
Oh, superb. So lads, tell me, you were saying earlier on, Albert, about Stephen's collection of Morrissey records. Let's hear about that.
Again, right? So Tokyo, we're going through Tokyo, right? I'm having a wee day, and I need to go into this record shop. I says, Mike, it's all in Japanese. I need to go in the record shop. What for? Morrissey albums in Japanese. Oh, sorry, the labels are all not Japanese. It's still Morrissey's being Morrissey, like, but the labels are all. He's got had to buy the albums with the Japanese writing on them.
Hundreds of them.
Mad.
The Japanese ones are very, very collectible. So when I was there, I thought, right, I'm going to go in and buy a whole load of it. I've got I have every single 7-inch, 12-inch album, CD, promo singles. Like, I'm talking probably 300 plus CDs easily in all different countries, all different versions. I've hundreds of singles, at least a couple of hundred singles, and probably the same 12-inch and the rest, and cassettes. Actually, during this lockdown, I decided I never used to collect Morrissey cassettes or Smith's cassettes. I only had some, so I decided to complete the collection, and I've got them all bar 2. I've just two more to buy.
This is from the man who said to Darren Clark, when he looked at all of Darren Clark's shoes and all his clubs and all that he still has in his garage and all, said to Darren Clark, "What do you keep all them for?"
Winker wasn't a super fan.
Fair point. Oh, I'm totally super fan. Like, hold on.
And we did. Oh, look at that there.
Fantastic.
Here,
Class, man.
You should make that your avatar.
I probably should.
Here, and I believe you've got a musical talent as well that no one knows about, Stephen.
Well, I wouldn't call it a talent. I wouldn't call it a talent. But yes, many years ago, I used to go to the School of Music, and I played the trumpet. Got my grade 7, not bad. But it's been a long. I used to play in a wee jazz band as well. This is many years ago. I mean, I do still have a trumpet. I brought it out not that long ago, and I couldn't play a note on it anymore because your lip goes. You can't play it. But I used to enjoy it. I used to love music. Sport and music were the two things for me growing up. I was never going to be that good at it, but I really enjoyed it. Played in a concert band, played in a wee jazz band. Made a tape at one point, which I must actually look out. It's probably awful, but we jazz band made a tape. So yeah, played the trumpet, played in concerts in the Ulster Hall and everything, but many moons ago.
Albert's actually alluding to the fact that you're going to find it difficult to play now. Why might that be?
Yeah, because you lose, like, your embouchure.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Because of that. Yeah, but I still play the trumpet. You only need these 3 for the trumpet. But
you're all right. So, Stephen, tell us about that finger.
Oh, don't start. I mean, look, obviously I went through a kidney transplant before Christmas, so I'm well used to having operations. But you see, when that happened, that is possibly one of the most gross things I've ever seen. I caught it in the door. Actually, the door of the office here, it's a sprung door. It slammed shut on it, and from just above the nail up, it just chopped it clean off right through the bone and everything. Absolutely horrible. So ambulance to A&E. Not a great time to be going because of coronavirus and all of that, but the staff at the Ulster Hospital were amazing. Mr. Robinson, guy looked after me, operated on me, and I was back up this week, back up a couple more times this week. So hopefully it'll heal. It's going to take a while. Means the golf's out the window for a while as well, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
and
it was sore.
Albert makes a joke out of it as soon as he came on. He says, "Give us a high 4th and 3/4."
I know. He's so funny, isn't he? So funny. Listen, the night it happened, I'm in a WhatsApp group with all the football writers here locally, and listen, they were giving me. I can't even begin to tell you some of the things they were calling me. But let's just see, a lot of very famous people who have a missing finger. I was getting called that person. It was very, very funny. Very funny.
I played with a goalkeeper. I played with a goalkeeper at Cliftonville. Had a similar episode, missing finger. You'll know him as well. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not saying no names. He used to dive over the ball a lot, depending on what team he had backed.
I remember that boy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Depending on what price he got.
The golf's out the window at the minute, but I couldn't play anyway because I'm obviously on the shielding list during coronavirus, so I'm on a minimum 12-week kind of lockdown and shielding period, so I couldn't play anyway. That's my excuse.
It'll give you time to heal.
Exactly.
So Albert, tell us something that the viewers don't know about you.
I'd be better telling you that, to be honest.
What was it?
You might get arrested.
Yeah.
What was it that I said?
You had a couple now.
Oh yes, yes, I had a couple. Right. Nobody knows, right? Kirk Hunter is my cousin. Full cousin.
Yes.
Kirk Hunter's mummy was my auntie, so she was. My daddy's sister. That's class.
Albert,
right?
that's why you've kept your good looks down the years. Just trying to get our Kirk for you.
That's why I've still got all my teeth. I didn't need to do any fighting.
For the record, I love Big Kirk. I always enjoyed Big Kirk's company, I have to say. Back in the day when we were, when he was playing for Crusaders, I know he was a seriously physical player, and there were a few challenges which were, let's just say, a little dodgy. But he was always very, very good to me. I have to say, Kirk was always good to me. Never refused an interview. Did a couple of great features with Kirk, and it was always good in the press box, because when Kirk came on as a sub, we always took a bet. How long will it be until he gets booked? And I remember one of the games, like one of the games was, it must have been 30 seconds. I think he came on, but he didn't get booked. He got sent off. It was incredible.
I think that was against Mickey Donnelly at Solitude.
I was filming that match.
I think you're right. It was.
I think it was. He literally was just on the park and straight in. But you know what? He actually never got the credit as a player, because he could actually play. The people just always seen him. Oh, he was a hard man, and he was put on to throw his weight about and stuff like that. But he could actually play a bit as well. He doesn't get the credit for that.
Now, I believe, Stephen, he may have taken you for a drink one night.
Tell you, unforgettable. At the time, actually, Crusaders and UTV had a bit of a fallout over something that had been reported by UTV. Crusaders weren't happy, I remember. There was actually a cup final. They won the League Cup, and they refused to come out and do any interviews. So I was kind of sent into the Lions' Den to go and cover the next match, knowing that the atmosphere wasn't great. But Kirk was, honestly, I'll never forget it. He was so good to me. And he said, forget about that. I'm going to take you in after the match for a drink. Now, I had driven to Seaview and actually parked my car inside the ground. We small car park in the ground, with the fish and chip stuff, which would sit now. And I was very apprehensive about going in because it was a really bad feeling. So he took me into the old social club and said, right, he's having what I'm having. So I had a vodka and orange. But it was like the Strongbow ad when I walked in, because it was like, silence, tumbleweed. Why is he coming in here? Kirk said, he's with me. He's all right. He's with me. And I proceeded to spend a very long night in Kirk's company, which was very entertaining. Went to a nightclub up the Antrim Road later on after that. I think I got home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Obviously left the car. Had to go back the next day, try and get into Seaview, which was now closed, to get my car back. This is many years. This is like the mid-90s. But great crack, I have to say. Great crack. He did a brilliant feature with us at UTV back in the day, and it was like the bad boy of local football. And even though we showed all the rough stuff, we showed the other side of him as well. And I remember back then he had got married back then, but he loved Crusaders, and he got his wedding pictures taken in the middle of the pitch at Seaview. So I mean, he was a character. He was a character, and I had a lot of time for him, I have to say.
I remember seeing that. Well, one of the stories I'd done was about Big Kirk. Now, Carl Frampton was on our good friend Phil Brown's podcast last week, and apparently Carl had sent the story through to him, and he said that didn't happen. Now, it was the first story that I'd done in one take. I phoned a couple of boys a couple of days before, and I says, were you there? What was it? Got a bit of information on it, and it was probably the only story that I wasn't directly involved in myself. But you know what? I'm not going to argue with a big man. If it didn't happen, it didn't happen. Sorry about
No,
I'll ask him for you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Albert, I think that's a disclaimer right there. I'm telling you now.
Yeah,
it's okay.
So out of
Jerry,
all the other stories were true, but look, I'm sorry about that, Kirk. But don't be getting too riled about it. But apparently it didn't happen. But I can
Jerry,
picture him actually doing it too, Stephen, and I think you could see him doing it.
I probably can, but don't. It'll be fine now. You can just say you know his cousin.
Albert,
Well, I know all of Jerry's cousins.
And sisters.
Albert, I remember playing against his brother Titch, who was actually bigger.
Titch, that was the irony of it. He was called Titch and he was bigger.
He told me to stop running about. Believe it or not, I could run then. He said to me, "Someone do us a favour, stop running." I looked and I thought, I certainly will, big man, no problem whatsoever. Albert, tell us about the Korean War. Tell us, that's another one of your.
Oh, here I was when we went to Japan and Korea. It was 2002, and the amazing thing was that my dad was in Japan and Korea in 1952, and like I've still some pictures of him here when he was there. But when we got to Korea, the Republic were training in an old army camp. It'd be like put it into perspective. It'd be like the team going and training up into like a Cathedral or something like at our Palace Barracks. It was just it was an army camp, right? Mm. So there was this boy, all the brass, like one of the major, really, really high up in the army, and he's standing beside me, and I'm working away, and the boys are training, and so we stopped filming when they're doing a couple of set pieces and that sort of stuff. So we're still there. So training away, and I talked to this Korean general or whatever he was. I had no idea what rank he was. And I says, the amazing thing was, I says, like, I'm here 50 years after my father was here. And he turned around and he says, your father was here? I says, yes. I says, look, there's a photograph of him. He was here. He was here in Korea in 1950. Well, I kid you not. You'd have swore that I'd given that man £1 million. He just thanked me from the bottom of his heart for everything that, basically not just what my dad had done, but what everybody else had done for Korea. And it was so humbling that a man who was in charge of everything was thanking me for stuff that my dad had done in Korea. And that was class.
Amazing.
And I'll tell you this, Albert almost didn't have the chance to show that man the photograph. And this is true. Albert lost his wallet in Japan, and somebody gave it back to him in Korea.
We're on our
the honesty of the people. He lost his wallet with that picture in it in Japan, and somebody gave it back to him in Korea.
Incredible.
It's just different world, like, you know, but great spot. If I ever get a chance to go back, I will do.
Well, sure, you're semi-retired now. You can do what you like.
Oh, that's true. But as soon as the flights are on, I'm off to La Manga. Come to see Jerry.
Yeah, Collie, I need to tell you the story. So, obviously, I think it was the 11th anniversary of you'd beaten cancer, Albert, wasn't it? About a week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'd obviously moved away. I hadn't heard, I hadn't seen him in years and years, but he knew that I was living on the Marmanor Golf Resort. So I'm sitting in my balcony one day, just overlooking the lake, and I heard Flinner. And I went, nah, no one would call me that over here. So I'm working away, typing away emails, and it's getting louder. Flinner. I'm thinking, I've lost the plot. So he looks over the balcony. Who's but lying? I'll send you the photograph after this. He's lying on the ground. He says, what about you? Have you any gin up there? So I threw him down a load of gin. I went down, give him a hug. Obviously, I hadn't seen him, obviously, because he had been fighting cancer and stuff. I said, what about the hair? You never lost it. He says, look at that. No, never lost one lock. I says, what happened? How did you beat it? He says, Magners and Jack Daniels. We ended up hugging for about 10 minutes, and they went on and played their football. I'd give him a bottle of gin and a load of tonic.
Class.
So every time now I would down to La Manga, one of the last times I was down, Albert had a mannequin on, the green ones. I have the photograph of that. But before I come on today, Debbie was asking me who was coming on. I says, oh, Albert's on. She says, oh, please tell him I was asking for him. He looked after me at Joel Taggart's wedding. I think it was 2 years ago. She says,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love Albert."
Albert, tell us that story then about beating the cancer.
Well, that's all right. Well, the thing about it was, I was working away, just working on, and I had celiac disease, so I'm working away, and I bought a new pair of jeans, right? So I bought a new pair of jeans, and I'm going to put my hands on. My hands are looking blue. I said, I'm dying from these jeans, so never thought anything of it, but just was getting weaker and weaker, and I was doing a job over in Newcastle upon Tyne, and I was pushing the trolley from the car to the airport, and it's only about 200, 300 yards, right? But I'm pushing the trolley with all the camera gear on it, and I stopped, and I had to stop 3 times because I was knackered. So away I go, get onto the plane, get everything done, get home, and this was on the weekend. So on the Monday, I made an appointment to go. Went to the doctor on the Tuesday, and called into the doctor, and it was a locum one, and she says to me, she looked at me, she says, right, she says, you look a wee bit anemic, we'll get you some vitamins, we'll do this, and we'll do a blood test. This was at 10 o'clock in the morning. I says, dead on. So then there's 2 weeks off in the sick. So she gave me, I phoned UTV, 2 weeks off in the sick. And so where I go, come back into the house, sitting in the house, I get a phone call at 1:30, 2 o'clock. You need to go straight to the Ulster Hospital right away. You need a blood transfusion. So I only live in the Cumber Road, so I walked over to the Ulster Hospital, and in the triage and all that, and the boys looking at me, and they're all going, right, check the bloods, check the heart, do all that. Oh, you need a blood transfusion, right? So up into the ward, and they give me a blood transfusion. Then they give me another one, and then they give me another one. 3 units of blood I needed, right? And the nurse says to me, says, how'd you get here? I says, I walked over. She says, no, you couldn't have walked over, because the way you are, you technically haven't enough blood in you to be able to walk. I was just getting weaker and weaker and weaker and didn't realize it. So anyway, that's dead on. Another story. Start doing all the tests, get everything sorted. So I'm going up to play. I'm on the pumping the vitamins all into me and all that, so starting to feel a wee bit better and all that. Going up to play the first press golf at the Valley, and I'm driving up, and it was 13th of March, right? So I'm driving up on the 13th of March, get a phone call, can you come in and see Dr. Tom? We need to talk to you about some of the results you've had. Right, okay. I says, I can't. I says, I'm on a wee job. I'm up in Portrush. She says, well, can you come in next week? So come in the next week. I'm sitting there and go in and see the doctor, and he just there's 2 nurses in with the doctor, and I go, well, what's this all about? So I goes in, the doctor says to me, he says, right, we've found you have a tumor, it's cancerous, and I spoke to the surgeon. It's exactly the way he said it to me, and I went, right, that's dead on. He says, do you know what I said? I says, yes, you told me I've got cancer. It's true, I've got a tumor, it's cancerous, and you spoke to the surgeon. So you obviously think there's something you could do about it. Nothing I can do about it. Spoke to the surgeon, we'll see what happens then. And that's the way it just went. Got the surgery on the 1st of May, and I was out on the 4th or 5th of May. First Northwest I missed in, I'll tell you, it was the first Northwest I missed since 1988, that year. And the amazing thing was, Willie Dunlop, God rest him, with Mark King, was riding with Mark King. And Willie Dunlop and Mark King came down from the Northwest and visited me in the house. So they did. And basically just one step after the next, after the next. The thing about it is, if you have cancer, you have cancer, right? And if it can be fixed, it can be fixed. Me worrying about it isn't going to fix it. Me thinking positive about it, well, I believe that thinking positive about it, being positive about everything that, you know, you can only, my mommy always said, if you worry, you die, and if you don't worry, you still die, right? And there's no sense worrying about something you have no control over. So that was the way. And I just,
absolutely amazing,
brilliant, you know, and the Jack Daniels and Magnus story, oh, that's class, like. Going on to the Jack Daniels, this is true. This is So the
I
next
thought you
thing
were
was,
pausing for breath there.
so they start talking to me about, so I was feeling great, walking, feeling good, had the operation, feeling positive, and then the next thing, you're going to have to get chemo. So that was a wee sort of downer. I went, oh, flip, that's not good. So up to the oncologist, talking to the oncologist, and it was tablet form they were giving me. I was lucky enough it wasn't the drip running, so it was tablet form they were giving me. So I was in getting the chemo, and the doctor saying you have to take this, and all these, and I says, look, will I take these with? Will I take it with vitamin C? He says, no. He says, no. He says, I'll tell you what. He says, you're just taking the water because what we're putting into you, excuse the language, is just pure shit. We're not putting anything good into you. It's just pure shit. So that was all right. So then I went, right. And then I says, well, if I'm on these, I says, will I be able to drink? And his exact words were Albert, if you feel like a drink, you can have a drink. And I took him at his word.
I think
There were some bad times, like, but on the good, but I as I say, I cured cancer with Jack Daniels and Magners, and the help of the staff at the Ulster Hospital.
I have actually met the consultant, and I told him that story, which he found highly amusing, and he said, I didn't quite say that. I think he's exaggerating what I actually told him, but he did find it quite entertaining. I told him just recently. I told him that.
Albert, I have to say, your positivity is amazing. It really resonates with me. A good friend of Jerry and I's, Jim Kavanagh, was just diagnosed with cancer, and he had the same positive outlook as you, and he's just been discharged from his oncologist. So amazing story, absolutely amazing. And see what you said about if you worry you die, you know where you die. I say those exact words. And we had a load of properties, as you know, I'm sure, and things didn't go well. And I was like you, whatever I can do, I could do. Whatever I can't, I let someone else worry about it. And Jerry was the same. Amazing story. Slightly different. Yours is much more serious, obviously, to be fair. But brilliant. This is Mental Health Awareness Week, as I'm sure you know. That's a real positive note for people watching this. Brilliant, Albert.
Positivity, it is. That me him there and see him down there, like wink. He took the same sort of thing when he says, right, I'm getting through this. When he was on the dialysis, and you know what he is too? He is one wee rascal. Right? I'll tell you a story before he gets. I'm hogging the limelight here.
Not like you.
What's new? What's new?
I was going up, and he was getting the dialysis, right? And he says to me, look, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to come up and film me setting up my dialysis, because then we can set it up and let all it. What was it called, Stephen? It was Help Yourself.
It was to teach people how to do their own dialysis, basically, to make them take control of their own situations. They wanted me to make a video to show people how it was possible, because I obviously didn't do it all, but I took charge of a lot of my own.
So I goes up 6 a.m. to see him, putting it all on, getting it all sorted, setting everything out, and then putting it all down, loading up the machine. Fantastic. It's class. He's a class act. Brilliant the way he does it. So that's great. And I go, right, brilliant, Mal, cut that, brilliant, happy days. So that was, I can't remember what morning it was, but I think it was 2 days later, he phones me, right? And he says, are you on your own? I says, no, I've got a friend in the car. I have my sister with me in the car. He says, I have a joke to tell you. I can't tell you. It's really rude, because it was on speakerphone. And so I'm driving and I'm talking. I said, must be really rude if he's not telling me. So way out for the drive. So she goes in the shop and I'm walking around. She just give Wink a phone, see what he wanted. So I phoned him. Right? I says, well, what's wrong? What's that joke? What's wrong? No. I just wanted to tell you, I've had my kidney transplant, and I burst out crying into the street. Right? Oh, brilliant. He says, now don't tell anybody. I don't want anybody to know yet. And I says, Wink, I'm standing in the middle of town, tears in my face. How am I going to say to her, oh, it's all right, it was just a joke he told me? And I go, what am I going to say? But the best news I ever had was him. Well, next to me being all right, I'm getting
I took you to play golf when you got cancer as well, down to Lough Erne.
Oh, he did? Oh, Lough Erne. 9 holes at Lough Erne. Just finished. He says, "Ron, we'll go down to Lough Erne. I'll take you down. We'll go down. We'll play the holes that are ready." Brilliant. I'll drive. You just come down. So away I go down. Played the 9 holes, sitting in the clubhouse and drinking away at the wine. I get a bottle of wine fired in, but I'm getting hammered. And he says, I just wanted you to come down and play it. I says, "That's brilliant. Thanks very much." He says, "Well," he says, "you mightn't have got to play the 18." But I have played the 18.
Well, that's doubtful.
Well, I got round the 18.
You get round the 18.
Yeah. But humor is all part of it. Humor is in our psyche, and it's the way you can sometimes find to deal with very serious things. And even though I was only, I mean, I wouldn't say that to somebody who I don't know. Obviously, it's only because he was one of my best friends. You were able to say that and make light of the situation, you know.
But he paid for it. He paid for it in Las Vegas, so he did.
Yeah.
Can we hear about that now, or is it for after?
Oh no, that's the one at Caesar's Palace.
We were back in Vegas first time since he's now in remission, and we were sitting outside Caesar's Palace, and I said, "Look, you have no idea how pleased I am that you're in remission, you've beaten this. So whatever you want this afternoon's on me. We'll just have a few drinks here, and I'll square it up. Don't you worry." Worst mistake I ever made in my life. Worst mistake. I had a few beers, and obviously we're sitting outside at Caesar's Palace where the prices are inflated. Albert was drinking mojitos. So when the bill came, let's just say it was hundreds, not tens of. It was hundreds of dollars. And I said, "You know what, Albert?" But I said to him recently, "See, when I get my kidney transplant, we're going back to Vegas. It'll be your turn to pay."
On me. It's on me. I can afford it now with my pension.
Stephen, it'd be remiss of us not to talk about your transplant, your 2 transplants actually. So let's hear about that.
Well, I had my first kidney transplant 30 years ago when my father donated one of his kidneys to me. And back then, when I was only 17, 18 years old, it obviously came as a massive shock hearing you were going to need a kidney transplant. But I wasn't feeling particularly unwell at the time. It's only when I ended up having the transplant that I realized how bad I actually was before. It was a very, very slow, gradual thing. So it's only when I actually got a new lease of life I realized just how ill I'd been before. So that transplant lasted me almost 30 years. And then it started to fail. So I was going to need a new one. Got to a point where my kidney weren't working, probably only working a couple of percent really. So I had to have dialysis. But I was determined that the dialysis wasn't going to rule my life. It wasn't going to be the only thing in my life. And I was going to try and most people don't work when they're on dialysis, but I was determined that I was going to prove a point that I could work the whole way through dialysis as best I possibly could, just to show you can lead as normal a life as possible, even if you're not firing all cylinders. So I ended up, with the help of the city hospital, having dialysis in America. I had it in Spain. I had it in France for the Ryder Cup. I had it in the Isle of Man for the TT. I had it in Scotland for the Open. While working at those events, I went to hospitals and had dialysis. So I did 4 5-hour sessions a week of dialysis. So by the time you drive over, have your 5 hours dialysis, and then drive home again, it's a fairly hefty schedule. And then I obviously went to work after that. So eventually I got the call that they'd found a match. It was a hard match. Second kidney transplant's much harder to match. And I was like, it really was a 1 in a million chance that I got my kidney. And then just last Halloween, as Albert said, I had the operation late in October. So an anonymous donor had donated to me. The kidney didn't match me, so I put it in this sharing scheme, which is like a swap shop. So for example, if you would give Albert a kidney but it wouldn't match him, then you could donate it to Jerry. If Jerry knew, you could give one to Albert. It's just basically a swap shop for kidneys. So I ended up getting a kidney from, all I know is from a donor in Northern Ireland. I don't know who it was. And since then, I've never looked back. I've never felt better. I had a few difficulties with the operation. I I had to be opened up another 4 times after I had the operation, which is unusual. I was just very unlucky. I had a few leaks. It was leaking a little bit, but once they got it sorted, I genuinely have never looked back. I am as healthy as I've ever been, touch wood. I'm out walking 8 or 10 miles every day, and obviously working away from home at the moment because of coronavirus. But I've been back in America since, working at the golf, and genuinely I have never felt better. The City Hospital in Belfast is truly remarkable. They are world leaders in kidney transplantation. They do more live transplants per head of population than anywhere else in the world. So, live donors. So that's whether it's a friend or a family member or an anonymous donor, people walk in off the street to donate. The live donation stopped during coronavirus, but unbelievably during this COVID-19 pandemic, as of about a week ago, in a 3-week period, the City Hospital did 31 kidney transplants from deceased donors and wiped out a third of the waiting list, because they were able to open their unit in Belfast, where most of the other units in the UK are closed. So all the deceased donor kidneys a lot of them came to Belfast. And I'm sure it's risen now. I'm sure they've done a lot more. That was about a week ago. So the list has been, a third of it's been cleared. I mean, it's an incredible story what they've done during this time.
I think we have to give a big shout out to my good friend Hilary Scott's cousin, the amazing Tim Brown.
Incredible man. He was my surgeon. He operated on me, as did 2 of the other surgeons, because I was opened up so many times. But he did my kidney transplant. He is passionate, so enthusiastic about his job. He goes the extra mile every day of the week. I mean, they did 5 kidney transplants in a single day a couple of weeks ago, which equaled the UK record. And I'm sure they're working long hours, but it's his passion and his drive to make things happen, that has made this happen. And he was, I couldn't say enough good things about Tim and the whole team. In fact, in the City Hospital, the job they're doing is just truly remarkable.
He's a funny guy too, isn't he?
He's great. He's very good. He's good. He's good fun. I mean, when I was up having my dialysis, I had to have in my arm like a little fistula fitted in my arm where they connect an artery and a vein, so they can basically plug you into the machine. And I was awake for that operation. So when I went in to the operating theatre, he said, what music do you want on while I'm doing this? Take your mind off it. So I said, will you play me some of the greatest hits by the Smiths or Morrissey? So like the first 3 songs were Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now, I Know It's Over, and Girlfriend in a Coma. And he said, wasn't a great choice for a surgery, was it? For your surgery?
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Stephen,
Yeah.
do you know Shane Finnegan?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I know Shane pretty well.
So Hilary,
I think he's had 4. I think he's now on to his 4th kidney transplant, as far as I know. I know Joe Brawley donated a kidney to him, which unfortunately didn't end up working. But I know that he's had a kidney transplant since, which is great. So I'm hoping he's keeping pretty well at the minute.
Well, Ireland's a village and Belfast is a hamlet, and Shane Finnegan's wife Catherine works with us, with Hilary, and Tim Brown obviously has done your transplant, and Shane Finnegan's. It's amazing. It's absolutely such a small place.
Yeah, what you might know about Tim, his dad was actually a very good rugby player, and his dad played rugby for Ireland. And recently I had Tim, with Albert was there too, we had Tim back at Malone with his family, and he brought his dad back to Malone. He presented one of his Ireland shirts to Malone Rugby Club. And Tim's brother as well was the Irish hockey captain. So, the sport ran in their family as well.
Patrick, is that Patrick?
Patrick, that's Patrick, yeah.
Patrick too, yeah. And Hilary's father actually was quite a good rugby player too, God rest him. Flanagan, forget his first name. Wilson Flanagan. I think he was a really good rugby player as well. Yeah. Top work. Well, lads, talking about sporting geniuses, who is your favourite player of all time? And I'm going to guess who this is, but I'll let you say firstly. So, Wanker, over to you.
Oh, without a doubt, my favourite footballer, it's probably pretty obvious, but it's George Best. It was a big hero of mine growing up. Even though I'm a Liverpool supporter, it's more what Best he did with Northern Ireland that probably I would like more. But I just love George Best. I mean, look, there's George Best stuff everywhere in my house. Even fiver, and there's a signed shirt up there. Had the chance to work with George, way back at sort of, I can't remember the year, but it was when Northern Ireland played Denmark. I remember he was a studio guest when Healy curled in the great goal past Schmeichel. And I'll never forget George. We were sitting in the studio and I said, look, I'm going to have to go down to the toilet here. And he said, you're going to miss the goal. You're going to miss the goal. And I said, well, I've had a kidney transplant. When I need to go, I need to go. So I ran under the old top stand. And as soon as I started going to the toilet, the whole stand erupted. And I went, I've missed the goal. So I ran back up, just caught the final replay of the goal going in. So sat down back in the seat, and Bestie looks over and he said, told you. I said, I know. And Billy Hamilton was the other studio guest. And he said, he just looked at Billy and then he looked at me and he says, you wouldn't go back for a shite, would you? And excuse my French. And that story for me, just with George, was like it was a privilege and an honour to work with George Best, who was, my absolute footballing hero growing up. Obviously, I was a big Liverpool fan. We've got a Kenny Dalglish shirt over there somewhere signed. I was a big Kenny Dalglish fan too. I love Kenny Dalglish. And I got to meet him actually for the first time a couple of years ago at the Open Golf Championship, which was a real pleasure as well. But to work alongside George was something which I'll never forget. He wasn't particularly well at the time, but my first introduction to him at that match, he was just sitting on his own doing the Times crossword. I didn't realise he did the Times crossword every day of life. So it was a great experience and great to be able to share some stories and swap some stories. That wasn't the only time. Worked with him quite a few times. And it was always a pleasure.
Jerry, this is dropping central here.
Yeah, he couldn't be a Liverpool fan. The only shirt I see is Beckham, and George Best is his favourite player.
There's a long story about that. Well, it's a short story. I was out at a function one night, and I was doing the auction. I was actually the auctioneer, and I explained that I'm going to bid some of these things up, so you might get left with one or two things. So I bid up this shirt up to a certain price, but it was a fake bid. And so, I couldn't then offload it for any more money. And when I sat back down, I said, that was fantastic to get so much money for that Beckham shirt. Who bought that? I said, that was me. And I went, oh, thank you so much. You are so kind. Blah, blah. And I couldn't say that I hadn't actually bought it. So I thought, okay. So I ended up buying the Beckham shirt and I put it there in the office so that every time I go out to a function, I go, don't buy any more memorabilia. Don't buy any more. So I think I might actually give it. I'm a patron of the Children's Kidney Fund, and I think I might give it to them to auction one of these days to raise a few quid for them, because it breaks my heart looking at the United shirt, seriously. And I should have spun the camera around, whatever it is. Yeah, that's better.
Well, just keep me in mind when they go to put it to auction, and I'll bid on that.
You would like it.
Yeah. And Albert,
I see that Bestie one over your shoulder there. I like that.
I got that at Peter Barnes last year.
That's a nice one. Nice one.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Albert, I think this is going to have a similar vein, but go ahead. Who's yours?
Oh, it's nobody. It has to be Bestie. Like, unbelievable. I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to see him play at Old Trafford. Because I'm a bit older than Stephen, just obviously don't look it like, but I am. I remember, and the best. I mean, I've been United from when I was a wee boy, like, because I went to Craigie Youth Club and played over in Craigie pitch where George played, and he changed in the garages, down at the Greenaway, on them days. Went to Craigie Youth Club, and thing was, it was just there. That was it. He was class, and it was Craigie Youth Club took us over. And we went on the Haitian boat, right? The Haitian boat would not be what you would say call a classy ship.
Cattle ship.
No, and it wasn't. It was. And then we got the boat from Haitian the train from Haitian to Manchester, and then we were up in the Stratford end, and it was like the Stratford end then was just wood, brilliant. And so Dennis Law had been out injured, and Dennis Law returned back. They announced the team. Well, the Stratford end just the whole lot just shoot, and it was a moment that I remember forever. Like, it was class, and just watching it, just different ball game. And the thing about it, and I always remember Sunday paper. There was a picture in the Sunday paper with George, right? And it was like they did a picture of his body, right? And every injury that he had, and every kick that he got, and Messi's fantastic. Ronaldo's fantastic, brilliant, great players, great ball players. But the difference was nobody's kicking them.
That's true.
There's no Norman Kelly's doing that or anything like that on. There's none of that. It was different then, and the ball and the pitches weren't like snooker tables. It's when you look at the Northampton, the 6-0. The goal, the pitch that day, and the ball control that he had that day. Running around and like fair play with different leagues, but the ball control he had on a ploughed field was just unbelievable. And
he probably honed his talents in the Craigie estate.
Well, and that wasn't just on the pitch, I would say. Been there myself.
Brilliant. So, lads, the regular feature here is who's your famous four ball, and you two golf-loving boys, I can't wait to hear who yours are. So, Stephen, go ahead. Dead or alive, who do you want to play with?
Well, the four ball actually said on the questions you were saying was like who you would take into the bar, the 19th hole. So that would be a slightly different four ball than the people I would take out to play golf. So I was thinking more for entertainment and
we'll go with that one then.
And enjoyment. So if I had to pick three people to play with me in the four ball, I would definitely pick Darren Clark to take into the bar for a bit of crack afterwards. I remember, one of the most memorable occasions I've had is when Darren won the Open and came back to Portrush for his homecoming. He took me down to the Harbour Bar, just me, him, and one other person for a few pints of Guinness that afternoon. We were making a documentary. We were just sort of taking a break before we went to do the rest of the filming. Unforgettable day, great crack. I'd probably, if I could take Bestie as well, I think I would take George Best in for a bit of crack and entertainment, just for the stories that he could tell. And then one other person, this might be a strange one for you, but he's a good friend of mine, and he's brilliant crack. And I was talking to him recently, and he just popped into my head as a boxer, John Duddy. He loves a pint of Guinness. He's a great storyteller. He's just a really down to earth, really lovely fella. And he does not play golf, so he wouldn't even be out. He wouldn't have done the other 18, but he would do the 19th part. And that's who I'd take in. A diverse mix, but that'll be one from boxing, one from football, and one from golf. And if I was going to pick one more to actually play golf, it would be Big Stephen Ferris, the former Ulster and Ireland rugby player. He's a good pal of mine. I love playing golf with him. Great crack, good stories, and always good entertainment in the 19th as well.
Brilliant, Stephen. And what about yourself, Albert?
Well, mine was I actually never thought of it until you asked me the question about it, and I went down, and I have a great photograph on my old computer. So I have of it was at the Irish Open, and always loved him as an actor, and always loved him. And that day when I met him on the first day at Royal Portrush was Bill Murray, right? And the crack he had, and it was just, and I would love to meet him, right? Just to hear the crack, with him, right? And another one that was because I played golf with him, and he was the most. Golf wasn't a sport, right? But he's the most unassuming man I've ever met. And on a golf course, he never played it. He was a bit of a bandit. Like he would turn up in a pair of tracksuit bottoms. Willie Dunlop, class act. And on a golf course, like again, because it's just because it must be a sporting prowess, like was so. But he could hit a ball, just stand up and just matter of fact, and what's behind it? What you did? No handicap, just turn up. But on the golf course, just talking, and he was just a lovely man, and I just got to know him very well on the golf course, and that was why I would love to play with him. And again, because of La Manga, every time I play at La Manga, there's a big picture of Sevy. And
I should have picked Sevy. I should have picked
Sevy. Oh, you're too late. You missed it. He's got my four ball.
He was one of my big sporting heroes growing up. I forgot about Sevy.
Ryder Cup, Ryder Cup at the K Club. Me and Logie, we have no rights or anything, and we're on the boat trying to get interviews with everything. And we're at the 10th, the wee hut at the 10th tee box there. And I'm running about with Logie, and all of a sudden, there's Sevy. And Logie just boom, straight in, interview with Sevy. Just like that. And I go, and every time I go to the picture, he's just standing like that. And every time I go, you'll not be able to do this, Stephen, because you don't have yeah, high 4.5 for you. But that was, it's just, and when you watch the old footage, and
he's class.
He's just.
I actually interviewed Sevy once, and it was one of the shortest, but one of the proudest interviews that I've ever done, because I was actually shaking like a leaf when I met him, because he was just such a hero of mine growing up watching it. And Albert mentioned William Dunlop. Actually, I would actually have to bring somebody else in as well for the crack, and probably take him to his bar would be Joey Dunlop. I absolutely loved Joey Dunlop. Like, he was just one of the nicest men I've ever met. I got to know him pretty well. Still very friendly with the family, as Albert is too. And honestly, Joey was a quiet man, but you see, when you got to know him, he was just one of the best, and I miss him dearly. They've been showing some footage recently. He's obviously passed away 20 years this year, and Albert and I both would have loved to have gone to Estonia to pay respects to Joey, but I'm sure we'll hopefully manage a trip to Joey's bar. But what a 19th hole that would be in Joey's bar. Class.
Well, Stephen, as a one-off, we're going to let you have a 6-ball.
Class.
Even though it.
Don't make me drop any out. Don't make me drop any out in case they see this.
Oh, fantastic.
Well,
actually, I'll take 3. I'll take 3 to play golf, and then bin them and take 3 into the bar. That's.
I think before we go, there has to be a story about Norman Kelly in here somewhere.
All I'm saying is red or black.
Red or black.
Norman will know.
Black.
Red or black.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Elaborate after.
That's it. I listen. Norman's a very good friend of ours. I don't see him as much as.
Oh, here, no, I have a good story about Norman.
Oh no.
This is one you can tell.
No,
we're still recording. You know, they are still recording.
This is all right. This is all right. Laguna Beach. We went.
Oh yeah.
We went and stayed with Norman at Laguna Beach. Oh my God! Right, talk about rock and roll stars. This place was just. It was probably one of the first early morning drinks I ever had. No, maybe not really. It's the first time I seen a Bloody Mary for a breakfast. Right, I'm not kidding you. This bar, which was just down the street from where Norman lived, and I'm not kidding you. It was about that size. Right, I was nearly as good as my salads. It was like one of my salads. Oh, Bloody Mary mix. Unbelievable. It was for breakfast, so I sort of got used to that there. But that's a good story about Norman Kelly and Laguna Beach. Oh, loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I remember Norman and Spike actually. Glenn Ferguson came to the UTV, the legendary UTV Christmas party, and that's one of the first times I actually met Norman. And within 15 minutes, you think Albert's good on the karaoke? Norman, all over it. All night, and we'd listen. Norman's a good friend of ours, and as I was saying, I don't see him as much as I would like to, because he doesn't live too obviously. Well, he lived very close to me. He's moved now to Ards, but Norman's great, brilliant footballer. So he says.
Yeah. Elbows is right.
Elbows.
First time I met him, give me a black eye.
Well, lads, I have to say that was absolutely out of this world, and thank God he's looked after you two, and you're both keeping well, because Belfast would be a different place without the two of you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Stephen, Albert, thank you very much. Brilliant for catching up with you, and hopefully see you out in the Maga in September. Appreciate it.
Hopefully all being well. See you then, Jared.
Thanks very much, lads.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.
So welcome to the second half of the show, and we are delighted to be joined by 2 Irish League legends. The one and only Mr. Alfie Stewart and Alexander Sandy Fraser, two Portadown legends, should I say. Welcome to the show, lads.
Thanks, Colin.
And we're also with the
Thank
man of
you.
the moment, Mr. Jerry Flynn. And I didn't forget about you this time, Jared.
Yeah, you nearly did, but go ahead anyway.
So, Alfie, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background and your career in football.
Well, my background, I'm born and bred in Mackara, South Derry. Moved to Glens, Column, whenever it was, just turning 18. Spent 6 wonderful years there. Moved on to Ports End in 1988 for 10 years. And the latter part of my career, I suppose, went to play for Kenny Shields at Coleraine. Played for Marty Quinn at Coleraine as well. Jerry will know Marty well. And then I spent a couple of seasons back home where it started at Viola Park before I finished again with Kenny Shields at Ballymena. So that's my football career.
Brilliant. What about work? What are you doing work-wise, Alfie?
For the past 20 years or so, I've been working in the civil service, and that's a posh name for working for the road service, Colin.
Here, there's a bit of a paradox here. Nobody works in the civil service, Alfie. And Sandy, what about yourself? Give us a bit of background.
Not at the minute.
Colin, I signed with Celtic when I was 12. In fact, I think, as I recall, I was the youngest person when I signed with Celtic, youngest person, the kid that had signed with Celtic. So I'd started turned 13. Stayed with them, went full time. Well, in fact, it was a different time then, wasn't it? I mean, when they signed me, I could have signed with Rangers and Aberdeen, I think Man United and stuff like that. So I was doing all right at that time. But Celtic came and they offered me, and they says, and imagine this, at 12 years of age, we will guarantee you a 2-year contract when you leave school, you know. So that was me. My schooling was.
You were done.
That's why I'm so stupid, Alfie. That's what I blame on. It's Celtic's fault. Blame them for everything that's went wrong. So I went full time when I was 15, just before I was turned 16. Stayed there till about 20. Went to Aki's for a couple of years, and then I was actually supposed to be going to Australia. And I got a chance, a guy called John Lambie that was the manager, and he put me in touch with Big Ronnie McFault, and I went over just to see what it was like, and I knew nothing about the Irish League at all, and I thought I'll go just get a game and a kick a bit, and lo and behold, the kind of rest was history after that.
Brilliant. And John Lambie was Partick Thistle manager at one stage, was he? He
was a Partick Thistle man. That's actually what happened. When he left Hamilton, and I went to Partick Thistle with him. I was on trial and stuff like that, and he said, "Look, there's not really any kind of, we don't have money, we don't have room." But and then he talked about Ronnie. But I always loved there's a story about John Lambie. I don't think I heard it. We were playing one time, and some guy went down with a head injury. It's fucking head injury. Imagine these days you get huckle straight up, and the guy, so the physio was on his lap, head's gone. He doesn't know who he is, and I swear to God, John Lambie says, "Tell him he's Pelé and put him back on." There was none of that as he got concussion.
Absolutely brilliant. You're underselling yourself, by the way. You're not a bit daft. Tell us what you're doing now in your job.
I am an independent social worker and a psychotherapist. And so, I can, work with kids and stuff. It's interesting work. I must admit, I really enjoy it.
Brilliant. Jerry, you better watch what we're saying here.
I know. We had Gary Peoples on a couple of shows ago, and he's in the same sort of game, isn't that right? He was explaining, he was somebody who gives your number, Sandy. He does something similar.
That's right. I had heard that. I've not spoken to Gary since we were in Ireland. But actually, I'm moving back to. I live in the South of England, but I'm moving back to Scotland. Probably in the next 5-6 weeks. So I think I'm looking forward to kind of reigniting some of those relationships with the boys for Ireland.
They were brilliant crack, I have to say. They were on last week. Lee Finney, different class. Some stories.
People was some boy.
So, sorry, go ahead, Jer.
No, I said he told a cracking story about when Kevin McKeown wound him up and sent him down to Jerry Kelly's show. and he wasn't even on it. They got him VIP taxis and stuff. Everybody's in stitches about it. He got the new suit and shirt and tie and all. Taxi picked him up, and it was only when he got back to the hotel, Kevin McKeown phoned him. He says, "How did you think of the Jerry Kelly show?" He says, you dirty so and so. Alfie, I must have just missed out on you twice because Quinner ended up signing me for Coleraine. I think you must have just left maybe a season before. And then at Ballymena, I had just left with Kenny. And then I think you came in that season as well. Was that in the first division?
I went back. I wanted to finish, to be honest with you, the team had started with Meola. Before we went to Glens, I played at Meola. And I always said that I would like to finish my playing career at a local club, preferably Meola. And Kenny was the manager there, believe it or not, before he went to Ballymena. So I ended up at Meola, and I thought that was it. But then, as you rightly say, Ballymena were in the first division. Kenny signed a wealth of experienced players, myself, Paul Miller, Paul Byrne, different players, just to get them out of the first division. And that was my final year, so it was.
Yeah, because we had just been relegated. We had been relegated with Ballymena. And I'll never forget it. We were relegated on the Saturday. And the following Saturday, he started pre-season. That's not a word of a lie. Yeah, no, but seriously, he did. We only done one night, or I think every Saturday for 4 weeks, and then he brought it into 2, and then 3, and then 4. But I remember turning up because young Dean was only about 13, 14 at the time, and he'd come up and he said, "Jerry, show me a new trick." And see, by the end of the training session, Dean had whether it was catch the ball in the back of your neck or whatever, Dean had it done within 2 hours. But Kenny had 3 tires with ropes around them, and you had to tie them to yourself, and you were doing laps of the pitch with him. He had weights benches down. He was fanatical, really fanatical.
Old school.
Kenny and I go back a long way. Kenny, we were actually from the same hometown of Maghera. Probably grew up about a mile apart. He's a bit older than me, of course, but football daft. I mean, I signed for him 3 times. I signed for him for Coleraine, I signed for him at Meola, and I signed for him at Ballymena. Daft. I remember, Sandy, you'd love to hear this. Kenny took us at Coleraine down to, I think it's Nicarn down in Fermanagh. It's like an estate or something. Anyway, cut a long story short, we were spending all day Saturday pre-season training, which consisted of 2 1-hour long runs, Sandy. 2 1-hour runs.
Cool. That's quality coaching.
Brilliant. Alfie, I have to go back to the start of your career, and we were just chatting there before we started that you were a left winger, and Sandy Fraser didn't believe it, in a magnificent Glentoran team.
Yeah, I've always said it, Colin, for a kid coming out of the country, going into the big smoke, as we called it, to find yourself in an environment that I did at Glentoran and getting the break as soon as it did, well, it's just fantastic. And it is a sink or swim situation. When basically, you're thrown into the middle of it. The Glentoran team I played in had several internationals. Jerry Mullen, Billy Caskey hadn't come back from America at that stage, but you had Tom Connell. We had Dermot Keeley, Alan Harrison, Gary Blackledge, Ron Manley. Incredible, incredible. And I'll not leave out this guy because he really was my mentor. I travelled with him for 6 years. It was Jerry Mullen. You'll remember Jerry.
I remember Jerry well, yeah.
But Jerry was not only a fantastic player, played at Everton, made 4 appearances for Northern Ireland. But if you're a kid and you're needing guidance through the early part of your career, and you're needing wisdom, and you're needing advice, and you're needing a bit of a telling off here and there, Jerry Mullen was the man, and I was very fortunate in that respect.
Absolutely brilliant. He was a fantastic footballer, and Jim Cleary as well. The midfield that Billy Caskey at Glentoran had were phenomenal. They could have played in the old first division in England, no bother whatsoever.
Well, you're looking at a period around about the mid-80s. I'm playing by this stage at left back, and I'm looking at 4 guys in front of me, a midfield that consisted of Jimmy Cleary, Barney Bars, Johnny Jamison, and I'm trying to think who else was in there. But, there's 3 already. pure quality. Like, I mean, goodness me. Jimmy had been in England. Barney had been at Derby County. Jimmy Cleary could have gone to England. I mean, just quality all around the team. You know, it was amazing. But a very lucky young man to get the opportunity. And if you can't learn your trade in that company, Colin, there's something wrong.
Absolutely. But you didn't do too badly now, to be fair to you, Alfie.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing, David, when I look back at it, and I say this, you know, I say this very honestly. The one thing that I did have more than anything else, well, I was very fit, but I had a passion for the game. Sandy, I know Sandy played with me quite a while. There was nobody probably loved the game more than I did. I just had a passion for it, passion to do well. I would run through a brick wall for it. And Big Ronnie was the manager in my first years at Glentoran for the first couple of years, 2.5 years. And I have to say, Big Ronnie was just fantastic with me. You know, he gave me my first break. You know, and Sandy, we'll get on to later on. Big Ronnie was no coach by any means, but he was a manager who knew players. And I'll tell you what, he gained my respect from the word go. And I ended up playing something like 12 or 13 years of my entire career for Big Ronnie, simply because I loved him to bits. He was a grumpy old so-and-so at times. You know, Sandy, I'll tell you some stories about him. But he had a passion for the game, which matched my passion for the game, and I just love playing for him.
Colin, I think there's something wrong with my earpiece must be broken, my computer. Because I've heard two things. Alfie Stewart used to be a left winger, and that Ronnie McFall was some kind of decent coach and mentor. Obviously, there's a breakdown in communications here.
It's obviously broken up, Sandy. We'll have to start again. I was actually going to say he obviously knew his onions because he never signed Jerry Flynn.
He wanted to sign Jerry for buttons, but Jerry wasn't having it.
Sandy, so tell us about your time then when you arrived at Portadown.
It was kind of lively, especially having been at Celtic. I think I told you that story about when I signed with Celtic and I went to a Protestant school and I went into the toilets one time and somebody spray painted Sandy Fraser as a Fenian turncoat, you know, and I say I was kind of pretty famous after that. Then I went to Portadown from, and all they knew about was the Celtic thing, you know. So it was, you could you could see everybody, so you know, and it's particularly as we started doing okay, didn't we? They were really struggling with the whole Celtic thing, and then coming there. But I think that it made them all feel a wee bit better that I was actually a Protestant. So I think that kind of settled them all down a wee bit.
I think the 30 goals a season helped as well.
That may help a wee bit. But I don't know if you heard that thing. I don't know if you knew yourself when I was. I tell you that one when I went to Derry, and I was trying really. So this is the Catholic Protestant thing. Followed me all over the place. And when I was at Derry, and it was my first couple of games. You know, it's like he's on over. It's like dying to do good, aren't you? I was hyped to do well. And I remember this guy beat 3 or 4 people down the line, cut the back, empty net, and I fucking skied it right over the bar. And it was a good, decent crowd. There was maybe 4,000 or 5,000, and it all went deadly quiet, you know. And I was like, they're going to start slaughtering me. And then I just heard for the crowd, Sandy, did Ian Paisley send you up here? I don't know if you heard that before, but the worst thing was, it went all quiet, and then everybody started laughing, and they laughing and telling their mate, "What is it? Just said that did Ian Paisley send Fraser?" I don't think I ever recovered. So I blame that guy for me not having to do it.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Jay, did you play against these boys?
Sandy and Stevie Kern up front for Portadown. Unplayable. They were unplayable. They just frightening. And then you had Alfie at the back as well. What a side! But when you went through that side, you had Joey Cunningham as well. Martin Russell at one stage was up there, who was just an absolute Rolls Royce. Haylock, all down the years, Harkins, but back in that day, you remember Philip Major when we were doing the houses, I remember he used to wake up to Philip every morning because he had a stint on the radio where he would have give out. I think it was the First Trust or the Bank of Ireland or something.
Bank of Ireland, I think he was.
Bank of Ireland, yeah. And they used to interview him, and he would say, "Well, this is going to happen," but me and you had just lost about 100 houses between us, and I'm having to play against him on a Saturday, and all you hear him on the radio nearly every morning. Oh.
Hey, Jerry,
Jerry.
Greg, I've got to tell you about Philly, mate. Phil became a really, really good friend of mine. But I'll tell you a story about him later on. But see, for the first, I would say, half a season, maybe 3/4 of a season, I kind of took them because I just figured he had a squint. Generally for months and months, because he would, when we were playing, he would take a touch and look up, and he would make eye contact with me, and then he just fucking boot it straight into the stand. You're looking at me. So even then I still laugh. I'm like, you definitely never had a squint in the early days.
He was some crack, and then but you know character as well. Like wee Greg at left back there. Alfie will tell stories about wee Greg, and so will you. But see, just meeting him out in town, and Big Philip as well. The crack used to be night. Then you had Peter Murray went down as well. Some side to play against. Yeah.
What about Stevie Cowan? Do you still see him Sunday?
Well, funnily enough, I contacted him just because I'm heading back up. I met him, it was about a year ago. The inductees in a kind of Portadown Hall of Fame. So I met up with him, and that was the first time I'd seen him in maybe, 10 years. So it was really nice. So I've called him recently, so kind of looking forward to kind of meeting up again, because for a couple of seasons there, it was just, we had a great time,
You really was a deadly duo. No joke. Stevie couldn't run. He was like a chicken running, but he put the ball in the back of the net.
Oh my! His finishing was just outrageous,
incredible.
Wasn't it? It felt something.
He actually came to Cliftonville. I think he went back and played lower league for a team in Scotland, and then he came to Cliftonville for about 4 games. I'll never forget. He scored a goal one time, and you know the way you run off to celebrate.
Yeah.
Well, we had already been over at the stand, and it took him about 2 minutes getting over to come and catch us. It's usually you're trying to catch him, but he was finished by the end. But his touch, his awareness, and his finishing was just incredible. What a player for Portadown back in the day.
Hey, Jerry, can I come in there a wee minute? Just, Sandy will know what I'm talking about here. I was completely flabbergasted whenever Big Ronnie let Stevie go. And I don't know the whys and the wherefores of that, but I think Stevie had just scored 40-odd goals in the season prior to leaving us. And I, to be honest with you, I think he went to Ballymena for a while, and I think he played at Cliftonville as well, as you've alluded to. But I think it knocked Stevie for 6 to let go of Portadown. I'm nearly sure there was not a good 2 or 3 seasons on him. Sandy can comment on this if he want, but I know as a player, I was completely gutted whenever Cowan was let go, to be honest with you.
He was amazing. As I say, he didn't cover the ground. He didn't put defenders under pressure, whatever. But as soon as the ball came to his feet, you knew that you have a 90% chance of scoring a goal. He was just incredible in around the 18-yard box.
Jerry, awesome. he didn't put them under physical pressure, but he put them under emotional, mental pressure. So you want to hear them talking. Who's the big Alfie? What's the big centre half guy? I keep telling a story. He played at Linfield. Big tall guy, big Christian guy. Do you remember?
David Jeffries.
Big Jeffries. You must have heard me say. I've told that 100 times. I remember him. We played at Linfield, and he was playing against David Jeffries. And David Jeffries, clearly, this is where about the big daft defender, clearly been told, stick with him. Whatever you do, stick with him.
That'll do you. Hey, hold on, daft defender.
Doesn't come to excluded, Alfie. So Steve, I remember us getting a corner, and Stevie started walking out of the box, and he followed him, and then he walked further out of the box. We're playing the Linfields at Windsor Park. The centre half, he got nearly to the halfway line. The centre half standing at the halfway line when it's a corner against them, and the ball came in and I scored. And Stevie, this is true. Stevie turned around to the big man and says, "Big man, don't watch me. watch him. That's the kind of annoying guy that Stevie would have. That's the kind of thing he would have done, you know. So he was a very clever boy, very switched on.
But here we'll have to talk about Alfie and Big Strain at the back and Mickey Keenan. I mean, defensively, Portadown were outstanding as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, no doubt about it. I think when I went, I'll be honest, I was very quickly amazed at the standard of some of the play and you know, at the top of the Irish League for sure. It was the strikers that were at, probably at Linfield at the time and at Glenavon. You know, there's some decent players as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
And for sure, you looked at particularly, I think Alfie and Big Brian. You looked at the two at the back, and you just thought, you know, there was a bit of quality about them, wasn't there? You know, a real kind of. You'd have thought one of them was almost a left winger at one stage. There was a real kind of calmness and quality about it, and I think that allowed us just to play, you know. So it was great. It was real quality players.
Alfie, watching you from like a Cliftonville standpoint, I'm a Reds man. You were like a Rolls Royce, absolutely, always cool and calm, and collected. And you weren't putting the ball in this stand like Big Major.
Well, some of the time, to be honest with you, Colin, no, to be fair, I think to be honest with you, Strainer and me was just a perfect match. Big Strainer and me. If you're talking about someone who was made to be a skipper, it was Big Strainer. I mean, I was the more vocal of the two of us. But if you're looking for somebody who was calm, composed in the middle of a storm, whenever things aren't going well, Strainer was certainly that man. I mean, even when you're talking to him, he comes across as a very composed character. He's super fit. I mean, the two of us weren't really centre halves in the old-fashioned sense, if you know what I mean. Back in the days, you still remember Peter Rafferty and those guys. I mean, these boys would have kicked you into the stand. I mean, yeah, we could look after ourselves, but I think it was a changing right throughout football, where defenders were becoming more mobile, more apt to maybe bring the ball out or whatever the case might be. But I enjoyed playing with him. He was a calm, composed character, and definitely he was made to be a skipper, like, so he was.
Really good guy as well. He actually did a bit of physio work on me a few years ago, and then he was involved with Kelly Lay, I think. Dee Hearns, his brother-in-law. I met him a few times. Good fella and a smashing footballer too.
That's right. I mean, I'll tell a story about a big run. I mean, you rightly said I started at left wing at Glentoran, ended up at left back. I didn't play centre half until I was about 24. And we were on a pre-season tour. That season we won the league Sunday. We went and we played Hamilton in a friendly. We played Dunfermline in a friendly on a Friday night and a Saturday. And Big Strainer didn't make the pre-season tour to Scotland. So I ended up playing centre half. My first season at Portadown, Ronnie played me in midfield, right? So it went very well at centre half. And I think, to be honest with you, I think I ended up playing centre half by pure accident, to be honest with you. Big Ronnie had said then, after we won the league and I'd forged this partnership with Strainer, that, you know, he'd always known that I was going to be a centre half. I think it's a load of baloney, to be honest with you. I think it's just pure chance.
Like most of Ronnie's coaching, I think, Alfie, to be fair, I mean, it's just pure fucking chance, wasn't it? He just threw enough stuff at the wall and hoped something would stick.
You're a bad man, Sandy.
I must admit, go back there, I 100% agree with you. I think he broke that whole thing up to with Stevie and everybody, really. It broke it up way too quickly. I think that season Stevie left, and it was very clear that I was not in his good books, you know, very quickly. So I never quite understood what that was all about. But yeah, I feel the same. I think with that team as it stood had another couple of years in it.
100%. And is that why you took the coaching course with me at times, Sandy?
That'd be one of many reasons. I heard you were going, so I thought I better turn up.
me, you and Tim McCann, never forget it. You've probably forgotten about it, have you?
No, not at all. No. It's like entrenched in my name, they call them. Entrenched.
So, Alfie, tell us a couple of stories about Big Ronnie.
Wow, where do I start? I've the utmost respect for the big man, Colin. As I said earlier on, I played for him for 12 or 13 years in my career. I'll tell you a funny one I actually was thinking about. I remember 1996. Remember the inaugural year of the Premiership, or the Premier League, as we called it back then, 8-team league. You remember it well. I remember we were flying pre-Christmas. After Christmas, we had a bit of a rocky spot. But anyway, as you know, Jerry, I'm a big Liverpool man, right? And I had a bout of flu. I played on the Saturday, had a bout of flu. Big Ronnie told me to take basically the week off, take a few days off. So then I arranged a wee trip to Liverpool, midweek game, can't remember, European game. Went and watched Liverpool. Was supposed to report for training on a Thursday night. We weren't going well at Portadown. So anyway, I got home there. It was an officer bus tour or something. No money for flights in those days, right? So I had to phone the big man on Thursday, late Thursday afternoon, and said, "Big man, I'm not making training." Well, he went ballistic with me. He lost a plot with me. He says, "You mean to tell me you haven't trained all week?" I says, "That would be right." I says, "You give me Tuesday night off after having played last week with the flu." But anyway, the conversation on the phone went something like this. Well, he said, "You know, we're paying you to train and play." I says, "That's right." He says, "So you're going to play on Saturday without having trained all week?" I says, "Well, only if you pick me." And I says, "I'll tell you what you do, babe." But at this stage, I was losing the plot too, and I had the phone. And I said, "Tell you what you do." I says, "Don't play me and don't pay me." I says, "It'll suit me fine." Of course, he wasn't expecting that answer, to be honest with you. I turned up on Saturday at Solitude, and the run into the title. We beat the Reds 4-0. Maybe you remember the wee boy Jamie Woodsford scored twice. The English guy was in on loan.
Yeah.
But the big man then was waiting for me coming off the park at Solitude. As usual, about to shake my hand, Rye smile and everything else. I shook his hand, but I didn't smile. I can tell you that. I was still seething. So
Brilliant. They've some character. And Sandy, you were going to tell the story about Philip Major earlier.
Oh, this ties in together quite well with Alfie there. I don't even know if you know this. We were. It was in the, I think it was in the days when it must have been at the tail end of the days when me and Ronnie were just, it wasn't working out at all. So I think I'd been dropped or I'd injured. Anyway, me and Phil weren't playing this game, and
I know this story.
do you know that story? And this is brilliant. And we couldn't have met I'll unfold as I get to it. So me and Phil are not playing. We're really good mates. We're not playing, and we're not, for whatever reason. And I said to Phil, I'm not sitting here listening to Ronnie gibbering on and talking, and I don't want to sit in the stand and come on, go for a pint. So Phil's like, you didn't have to twist his arm. So he's like, we'll go for one. So we goes down and we goes into this place called McConville's, brilliant bar in Portadown. Lovely Guinness, sweet as you like. So we have a Guinness. And then it's kind of rude. I bought him one, so it's rude not to buy me one back. And before we knew it, the game had finished. So we're like, we better get back up. So we gets back up to the pit. We're just heading in. And Alfie was the first one we seen coming out. And fortunately, Philip had said to somebody in the way, "How did the game finish?" And we'd get beat 2-0 or something like that. And Alfie says to Phil, "What about that?" And Phil being Phil, I mean, you just knew at that time, didn't you? You knew this day he was going to be a pundit, because Phil turns and says, "Alfie, we just went at it, will we?" And Alfie says, "That is acceptable. That's right, Phil. You're right. Phil, we won at it." And off he went, and Phil just turned. And I thought, that boy's got a future in radio.
First class. And Sandy, I think you may have a story about our good friend Alfie here, do you?
What was that?
I don't know. I seem to recall that you may have had a story about him. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think that was the one I was talking about there. That was that was the one you usurped it. Yeah, that was the one. And I love that because I don't know if Alfie even knows this, but I used to always call Alfie Stalwart.
That's right.
But yeah, because that's exactly what he is. I mean, it's like he's absolutely solid. You know, like great. It was a joy playing with Alfie and Strainer, because everyone was taken care of back then. So yeah, that kind of story, we couldn't have met anybody more appropriate.
I'll tell you a good. I want to tell a good one about Sandy, Colin, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Remember Sandy, we went to play Porto in Portugal. Do you remember that Ronnie actually paired me and you as roommates?
That I do as well, yes.
Unbelievable. Now we're poles apart, me and you, right?
I think we could be called strange bedmates. That was.
Let me tell you a story about Sandy. We're off to play Porto in the European Cup, right? Brilliant trip. staying in this 5-star hotel, I think it was. Sandy and me are roommates. Yeah, we're not made to be roommates. The wee man was a messer, like he's a head case, right? And I was totally sensible and professional. So anyway, I'm down the hotel for you. Come up to the room, 5 stories up. The wee man's sitting on the window ledge, 5 stories up, right? And he's drinking in the sun rays, right? And I said to him, what are you doing sitting there? Oh, I says, man, this is brilliant. I'm soaking up there. And I'll tell you what, right? So whenever I'm in my trip, I've got my Bible at the side of the bed for reading. And Sandy's reading a book by Desmond Morris, something called The Ape Man or something, you know what I mean? We were poles apart. I don't know what Big Ronnie was doing. The wee man, oh, non-stop talk, you know what I mean? I wanted to talk about the match. He wanted to talk about everything. Harley Davidson across the Route 66, nutcase.
Big Ronnie was trying to get you to look after him, Alfie.
No chance. Never going to work, mate.
Absolutely brilliant. So I have to ask you, lads, about your favourite music groups. I know, Alfie, you've got a group or a person that you have in mind, and Jerry and I and Sandy really know this person. Go ahead.
Well, don't be laughing at when you look her up. She's won more Grammys than anybody else in the music industry. Now you're embarrassing yourself, Colin. Her name is Alison Krauss. She's a bluegrass gospel singer from the States. She is immense. So she is.
Brilliant. Listen, one of the other things you say about status quo, I just about know them, so don't be offended.
That's going back to me misspent youth, mate, where I bought every single and every album. I was out of fortune, so it was.
Brilliant, Alfie. What about you, Sandy?
Oh, I love my music. I'm into all sorts of malarkey. I love a bit of rock stuff, you know, the old Nirvana, Foo Fighters. There's a guy called Tom Waits who I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. He's
the heart of Saturday Night, Sandy.
Oh, the very one, absolute legend.
Sandy, who does he play for?
Sorry?
Who does he play for?
I think he played right wing when Alfie played left wing with the Glens.
The
Glens.
I've no idea who he is, but that sounds great. Oh, super.
I'll tell you what, again, I'll shout out to if anybody's listening to this in Northern Ireland, go on to the Bonneville's, band from Lurgan. Blues, rock, punk stuff, absolutely brilliant. The Bonneville's are called.
The Bonneville's never heard of
support a local group. They're great.
Good lad. And what about footballers, Alfie? Who's your favourite footballer of all time?
Well, I grew up. I'm a Liverpool fan, mate. Right. My boyhood hero was Steve Highway.
Brilliant. Remember him well, yeah.
Left winger, Sandy. Steve Highway was a left winger.
I remember Steve Highway. I had him in my Stewart team.
To this day, you know, people talk about your Keegans, your Douglases, your what, you know what, and Highway's still the cream of the crop for me. I just did that. Just loved watching him as a kid. If you're talking about my favourite all-time player, well, mate, I'm making no bones about it. Lionel Messi, outstanding, unbelievable.
Can't argue that, Alfie. Can't argue that. Sandy, what about you?
I think when I was playing, and if anybody watched me, you probably could. It was quite clear. I really like Mark Hughes as a player. Just his kind of shape and his strength and his aggression. The fun enough thing is I've, and Alfie will maybe tell us, I've matured. I've looked back in my career in a slightly different light. I think actually, like, you know, as Alfie will tell that. I mean, it's a great example of that, you know, that kind of, you know, my feet dangling out the window, my head up my arse, you know, when I should be getting focused, should have been really focused. And I think I could get more out of that stuff. You know, it's like you get older, done it. You look back in your football career and you think, oh, I could have done a couple of different things. And then I would say exactly the same thing. You know, Messi or even Ronaldo. I mean, that guy is just, you know, the way he keeps himself and how hard he works, and you can just tell that he's practicing and practicing and practicing. You know. And you kind of think, actually, you know, we could all have done with a wee bit of a Ronaldo, you know, when we were practicing.
Phenomenal player.
But unfortunately, as you so rightly talked about, you know, when we were training, we were getting tires wrapped around us and told to run a couple of miles. Although I must admit, when I was thinking about that, I just remember thinking somebody wrapping a couple of tires around you and telling you to run. That must have been quite difficult. But then I remembered what it was like trying to run when you had Big Ronnie shouting at you. That felt like you had a fucking elephant tied behind you.
Fantastic.
And so, Alfie, this is a regular feature of the show. If you had a famous 4-ball, dead or alive, who would you be out with? Or whatever. And maybe not the 19th hole, that'll be for Sandy, but who would you be with?
Well, when I tell you, mate, we Greg, I think Jerry talked about him earlier on. Greg was he was a gag, like he's funny guy. Never met anybody like him in the change room. Sandy was a gem in the change rooms as well, like the laugh a minute. But Greg was unbelievable. Considering that most of the time he spent on the bench, how he kept his spirits up, I don't know. But anyway, he was brilliant, and he's just so funny, and he was a brilliant wee player, tough as tough can be. You know what I mean? He was. If you're going to have boys in the trenches, the two boys I'm going to mention are Greg and Philip. Brilliant sense of humour, tough as old boot, just boys you'd want and a war with you. And I have to take the wee Sandy, because you know what? Those three guys there, they change it. Jerry will know what I'm talking about. When you have a good, successful changing room, it usually coincides with just good, strong characters, good people, funny people who are able to laugh their way through the pressure points in a season, whatever, And we were able to do that. We worked our way through it, hard work, and we laughed our way through it as well. You know what I mean? And those three, Sandy, Greg, and Philip, were funny guys. So
great 4-ball.
Absolutely brilliant. There you are now. You should be very proud of that, Sandy Fraser.
Alfie, thanks very much. I'll definitely come to that. I'll definitely. I might even drag you into 19th hole.
What about you, Sandy?
I think I went a bit more mainstream. I would, if there's a couple of people like Frankie Boyle, for example, guy's an absolute genius. The Foo Fighters lead singer, Dave Grohl. So kind of stuff like that, I would go more. But I think when you look back on, it's a good point when you look back on actually on your career and think about the people who are in dressing rooms. There's a few that were right in there. He's absolutely right with Phil and we Greg. They were a gig a minute, weren't they? And Stevie was always up for a bit of a laugh as well, But yeah, I think I would probably go for old Frankie Boyle, who kind of reminds me a wee bit sometimes when you think about Ronnie, when you think about Ronnie's coaching, sometimes, and I think about Frankie Boyle once said, he said that it's a bit like the elephant man trying to decide which way to part his hair. And I always think that reminds me a bit about Ronnie. It didn't fucking matter. It was all a big mess anyway.
Sonny had to come over from he was about 8.
Oh, Roger. Everybody thinks it looks like Roger De Courcy, right?
Go ahead, Alfie.
I'm just thinking of you're obviously a Reds man, and Jerry played at the Reds. I'm sure maybe Jerry, you're a Reds man as well, born and bred. Are you a Reds fan? Jerry grew up. One of the standout games. You boys will probably remember this. Jerry, I don't know if you were a fan or not, because you're a bit younger than me. I remember, Colin, you might remember. I remember an Irish Cup replay at Solitude. Big Keith Alexander was playing for the Reds.
During the week.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, there was some atmosphere that night. I think we won 1-0. Just. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll never forget it. We were lining up. Tim McCann was very young, and he's lining up beside me on the way out. And you know what? Tim was a young lad. He was shaking like a leaf. The place was bouncing that night. Remember the stand behind the wire there? It was bummed. Yeah. I'm sure you remember it. It was tense.
I'm nearly sure.
You remember
I'm nearly sure Ian Ferguson scored that night, Alfie.
I'll tell you what, that was, to me, that reminds me of a proper Irish League Cup tie. It was, we had to be here. Big Alexander was a quality player, and the Reds had a good side. But Solitude was bouncing that night. It was bouncing. And the place was jam-packed. But it's just one of those memories I always remember about Solitude,
Alfie, if you thought it was scary inside, you want to see the clip of the road after? That was even scarier, I'll tell you. We had to cross the road like that to get into the car.
That was scary.
Alfie, do you remember the game we played at Solitude when there was a riot?
I do indeed. we Joey celebrated an absolute stunning goal. Give it everything to the red men up in the main, in the main stand, and they went ballistic.
Yeah.
ballistic. What happened that day, I think, was. Go ahead.
I remember before the game starting, and they got a really high stand at Solitude, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's a really high stand, and I looked up and it was some bing bong at the top of the stand. We had Union Jack setting it on fire at the top of the stand. I thought, oh, we're in for a night tonight.
We were talking about that with Gary Peebles and Lee Finney. The atmosphere in those days, as Alfie alluded to, was phenomenal. They're gone now. It's very staid. It's a bit like going to watch Man United. The atmosphere is rubbish. So lads, Jerry's a big man for the quotes. Give us your favourite quote before you finish. Where you go, Sandy?
Oh, what was that? I seen one just talking to Tom Waits. What did Tom Waits say? He said, because I wrote it down, didn't I?
Yeah.
Never sleep with a girl called Ruby, and never play pool with a guy called Fast.
Very good.
There you go, Alfie. That's for you, my friend.
Read that one, Alfie.
I'll go back to Big Ronnie. Big Ronnie used to start of the season, and he says never get too carried away with all these muppets. He says flying about in the sunshine, and he says what was he called them? I think he likened them to donkeys on the beach. You know what I mean? They're only there when the sun's shining. You get the thoroughbreds from September on. He says.
Hey Jay, I've got to tell you one time, me and Big Ronnie weren't getting on, and because of this, he battered this sneaky toad that was doing the interview, and he must have went and told him. But I was getting interviewed after a game, and I think I'd been dropped, and they said, "How come you weren't playing?" So it was a kind of, what's going on with you and Ronnie? And he says, "A clash of," I said, "There would have been a clash of personalities. Only Ronnie doesn't have one." And I mean, honestly, the same night, about a couple of hours later, Ronnie pulled me aside. Hey, come here. You're not talking to the press anymore. Not to speak to anybody.
Brilliant, fantastic, Sandy.
Oh, class. Well, lads, that was absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much. We really appreciate you joining us, and good luck with your move back to Scotland.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks very much, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Lovely
speaking to you, Sandy.
You take it easy, boys.
Boys.
Yes, thank you, Alfie. Brilliant catching up.